Welcome back to Nothing But Football, ladies and gentlemen, on the Djellab channel. Hope you guys are all doing very well at home. The transfer window is open. However, I've brought back the boys. I don't know, we had a little change recently. I know people saying, "Where's Pat? Where's Pat?" Pat's a very busy man. He's got kids. He wants to be a bit of a dad. He wants to look after his kids a little bit more. So completely fair enough. He hasn't got lots of time. However, who is back? Napoli is back.
Go on, Napoli.
Henry Hill. We've actually got right in front of you. Somebody or representation of this video was at a European final.
Yeah, true.
Conference League, Europa League.
Is that
Champions League?
That's so funny.
That is funny.
It's the Champions
That is
table.
funny. And just like the Champions League, Henry Hill scored a fucking Champions goal in 5-a-side this week. 8-a-side, actually. Unbelievable. Henry, take it away.
That's a great intro. That's so true. And we all walked away happy. I actually turned up supporting Inter, watched them get absolutely battered, and changed my mind after 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I was like,
I'm
you know
playing
what?
both sides, so I can always win.
Yeah, I went, you know what? This PSG lot are quite fun. So I'm like, I've got Kvaratskhelia on the back of my shirt here, and I watched him live, and I watched him score a goal. And
Some player in it.
he's won Serie A. He's won Liga this
Done
season.
4.
And because he gets the Serie A medal, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, what?
Was it 60 million they got him for as well? It wasn't even that crazy.
I cannot believe that like Arsenal or other teams, no one else were looking at him. He is absolutely electric.
I felt like PSG were like the only ones in, and that was it.
Yeah.
Kind of done. Dusted.
You might think our 8-a-side team is one of the best teams you can ever see play football, but PSG, watching them live, rolling the ball around, they're almost like every single player. I don't feel I've felt that way about a team which I have no allegiance to. Like every single player on that pitch, I'm like, João Neves amazing.
Pacho had a great performance.
Pacho, what a signing from Frankfurt. Vitinha, absolutely loved watching him. Nuno Mendes is still my favourite left back in the world, bar none. I'm so happy for Marquinhos because he's been there for so long.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Even Donnarumma this season Champions League has been outrageous.
Thoughts on the Hakimi no celebration?
I don't mind. He was at Inter for a little while, and he performed really well there.
I actually think it shows a little bit more aura to not celebrate like that in that moment and just like show respect.
Yeah.
I quite rate it.
If he'd scored the other end in front of the absolutely bonkers PSG fans,
maybe it would have been a little bit different.
Yeah,
maybe,
definitely.
And of course, we have a European champion. Not the European champion, but a European champion. It's the first time I've seen you, Ben, actually, since Tottenham's victory. Are you Angie in or are you Ange out?
I'm somewhere down the middle. It sounds like he's going. I don't really know what we're waiting for, to be honest. But Frank in, it sounds like, if Ange does go. So I'm happy with that, to be fair. Look, Ange gave me the best night of my life, so I'll be forever indebted to him. And the best couple of weeks of my life, to be fair. It's been pretty.
Sounds like you went on a romantic holiday with him.
It was like, exactly. I feel like I should be with him in Greece right now, but he. It was class. It was really good. But I think
I'm happy for you.
It might be time to close the Ange chapter.
Wow. Well, we'll get on to Spurs later on in this video because, of course, as you can see by the title, we're doing a classic. Actually, one of my favourite videos to do this. It's how your club can spend £200 million this summer. The money bags are out. Of course, I'll be holding the money on the thumbnail, I'm pretty sure. Me and one of the boys will as well. Money falling down and all these kits or players edited into new kits. So the way it's going to work is our guy in the middle here, Ben, is going to be the sporting director for all of these teams. He is the Sporting Premier League director. The big boy. He is, I guess, I'm trying to think of a big one, Paratici for Spurs. He is Winstanley for Chelsea. The Atletico Madrid guy who's now at Arsenal, Berta. So on and so forth. And basically, me and Henry both have £200 million to spend for each of these clubs. The clubs we're going to be talking about is Chelsea, United, Newcastle, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham Hotspur, Man City, and I'm Newcastle United as well, because I don't know if I mentioned them or not. And so basically, we're going to suggest players. Ben eventually is going to pick the squad of the players that we suggest, and we go through each club like that. Now, look, some of you at home might be thinking, how can Man United spend £200 million? But someone thought, I get it. I actually kind of agree. But they are just about to put 120 on 2 players. So we'll see.
It's just a bit of fun.
It is.
Exactly.
It is. It's just a bit of fun. So Ben, as you're the sporting director, I think you, my friend, can kick things off.
Okay.
What club would you like us to go first?
I think let's start with who needs the most work.
Spurs.
Yeah, let's start with Spurs. Go on, why not?
Tottenham Hotspur, shock.
I'll be Fabio Paratici. Okay.
The Spurs fan has picked Tottenham Hotspur.
I feel like Tottenham need probably the most. I don't know whether we need the most work or not. I feel like it's. Yeah, no, let's go with Spurs.
It's tough with Spurs, isn't it? Because I don't know if you found the same, Henry. Basically, not knowing their managerial situation makes this a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Is Ange going to be there? Is he going to want to develop on his squad? Is it going to be Thomas Frank? Is it going to be Marco Silva, who's one of the names also mentioned about being looked at by Spurs' board? And now, Mr. Sporting Director, if you were to spend your £200 million, where would you be looking to spend it? Because I've gone for rough positions here, but I'd also think it'd be good for you to maybe give a rundown on where you think the money should be spent.
I think another marquee attacker, probably a winger to replace Son, or maybe someone that can... Because there has been talk about Son leaving in the summer if Saudi were to come in. I'm not sure whether he'd go there, to be honest, but it does feel like Spurs might make that sale because we are... In terms of registering our squad for Europe, we're in a little bit of a pickle when it comes to foreign players, foreign player allocations and stuff like that. So on top of the players that we might already be getting rid of, there might be another couple of players on top of that you didn't necessarily anticipate to go that might go. And Son might be one of those. And also, he's 32 now. Yeah. He's achieved what we wanted him to at Tottenham. It might be the right time for him to move on. Or even if he doesn't go, replacing him as a regular starter. So a left winger. There has been talk of a right winger as well. Obviously, we've been linked to Sane quite a lot. I wouldn't say that's as much of a priority. Maybe someone that can play on both sides would be nice. There's been quite a few links to an attacking midfielder as well, which again I'm not sure is necessarily a necessity, but maybe someone that could play out wide, but also in the 10 would be quite nice, given how injury prone someone like Matt, or not injury prone, but Maddison is quite injury prone. Definitely. To be fair. Kulusevski's obviously suffered with a big injury at the moment. We don't know when he's going to be back, and also
so you want every position basically.
Pretty much, because I also think we need a defensive midfielder. I think that's the priority, to be honest. A quality number 6. Yeah. And also, if Romero was to go, a new starting centre half, but maybe some centre half depth would be quite nice as well, regardless of whether he stays or goes.
Fair enough. Henry, would you like to go first or second? I'll let you have the pick.
Well, yeah. Oh, sorry, I'll go.
Go, my friend.
Go on,
yeah, okay. We'll kick off with a name that we all know. I think you should be going in for Jared Brantwaite.
Yeah.
I really like that as a suggestion. 6'5", absolute rock. He's got a 69% ground duel win rate, which was better than anyone else at Spurs last season. I think he's reliable. Yeah. He obviously has been thinking about moving away from Everton. United is someone that he's been linked with. Yeah. This would be a big signing. If you're going to sell Romero, which it looks, I think you will. I think he's going to agitate for a move to Atletico, and I don't think Tottenham can really stand in his way.
Yeah, I think that's another one that depends on the managerial situation. Weirdly, it seems like Ange and Romero's futures are quite intertwined from the sounds of it. Again, you don't know how much to read into how true that is or not. But the only thing I'd say with Brantwaite is that I really like him, and I feel like it's very much a Spurs signing, but he plays predominantly on the left for Everton, doesn't he? He's quite ambidextrous with his feet, but I feel like he's more suited to being that left-sided
There is something about two lefties, isn't there? Yeah. In the back four, feeling quite odd,
yeah,
isn't it?
And we've got Van der
Chelsea've done it once or
twice. But then again, also, the problem is that Van der Ven is also... but also, like I said with Maddison and Kulusevski, but Brantwaite is also... Van der Ven is quite susceptible to injuries. Again, especially if Postecoglou was to be the manager, I think going into next season, he probably will want to rotate him quite a lot, hopefully learning from the mistakes that have been made, not just with the manager, but with the behind the scenes and the medical staff. So signing another left-footed centre-half, I think would be a good thing for Tottenham to do. It's whether they spend that much money on someone who is going to be a rotation option. That's the only thing I'd say, but I love Brantwaite.
Yeah, all right, well... I think
There's an option. There's an option there.
Look... I think he's a very good defender.
He cover on the left-hand side as well, to be fair.
Yeah, 100% we should be signing.
Really, like Danso, he's not a starting centre-back for you going forwards. I think he basically replaced... Ben Davies has been released, is that right? Or is it?
It's not sure yet. I think he's got like an option to extend. Right. It's not been announced, basically, so I think he might stay.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just think you just need to level up as much as you possibly can.
Definitely.
So,
yeah.
I just think if you can go and get... Everton, obviously, are looking much healthier under David Moyes. Going forwards, the new ownership as well, they're under less pressure to sell than they were, let's say, last year. But I do think that he is getting to a point where if he's serious about breaking into the England team, or whatever his ambitions are, he probably has to take that level up.
I think it's going to be pricey though, isn't it? Do you not think it's going to be like 50 plus to get him?
I mean,
depends. How much you're going to make for Romero. Do you know how long he's got left on his deal?
He's still got a few years.
It was Brentford or Gehi for me, and I just don't think Gehi goes.
Both of them are in my list for later on.
Go on then, Zachary Djellab.
Yeah, so I have also gone for a centre-back, but looked a little bit at someone who has been rumoured a few times to different teams. I feel like when people speak about young centre-backs nowadays, there's basically like 3 or 4 that always come up. One of them is Jared Branthwaite, and I think absolutely fine if you were to go and sign him. He's also in my list for later on. But the other guy I've got is Gonzalo Inacio from Sporting. Obviously, been mentioned over the last few years as somebody who can kind of do it all. Is your modern day centre back, 6'1", great on the ball, leading the defence. And if you are losing Christian Romero, I do think you also need to kind of bring in a leader. And this is a quality that he does have, and I also think can develop as well. Only 23 years old. Price wise, it's looking at around 45 million euros. He swallowed my own throat there. 45 million euros to get him, which isn't too bad now, I think, in this market.
No.
He is someone who, for the future, is going to be used a lot. I think a lot of clubs are going to be looking at his possible kind of services. He's obviously playing for the Portuguese team as well now, and is really someone who can kind of come into that side. And if it was to be, I wonder if Romero stays and you pitch him, okay, you're going to be a backup here, it might be a bit more of a difficult deal.
Yeah.
But if Romero was to leave, which I feel like that's where the kind of cards are being drawn to be, that he'll come in and be that replacement ready for you. Yeah. And there's a huge future there. Look, there's an odd thing with Spurs, and I think bringing in young guys where there's sometimes some of these players I think that, the future might not be always at Spurs. Like, I think when Romero first came in, there was always rumors at Real Madrid.
Bit of a stepping stone kind
exactly,
of thing.
Possibly. And I kind of think maybe he would look at it similar as well. But that's also not a bad thing as well, to have someone in the Champions League and have them for a few years. Like, there's a couple of guys in centre-back who could also be named. I'm sure we will say. Diamonde was another one that later on I was thinking
Diamonde. The only thing, again, with Inacio is that he's actually left-footed as well.
He is.
Oh no, Zach.
He is. But I also think that might be a decent option for someone who's not going to be maybe quite as pricey as Branthwaite to come in and maybe be a backup to Van der Ven as a ball playing kind of a centre half. I do really like him from what I've seen. I really like Diamonde as well. Again, a little bit younger. I think he's 21. Would be seen. I think it's been touted by kind of a lot of Spurs fans as maybe someone that we should be looking at as a backup or as a replacement for someone like Romero. Obviously, he is younger. It's taken a bit of a gamble, but from what we've seen at Sporting, again, he looks like a good mate to step up.
Because the other thing as well, though, is that if you bring in Thomas Frank and Thomas Frank decides to go, you know what, I'm going to play a back three.
Yeah.
Having another left footer is not a bad thing.
Oh, no,
like,
not at all.
They can play century, they can play left-hand side.
And that's the thing with Frank, is that he's not necessarily... What I like about him is that he's not wedded to a back three, but if you're thinking about squad building, like Brentford, for example, this season played predominantly 4-2-3-1 with two kind of sitters. But I think if we lose Romero, I think this is why the midfield signing is actually maybe a little bit more important than the centre-back signing if we were to lose Romero, because one thing you definitely lose Romero is a lot of ball progression in that kind of middle of the pitch, because he's so good at stepping up into that area and playing those line-breaking passes. If you were to bring in a defender that maybe is a little bit more limited on the ball but is really solid, that's where that midfield signing becomes a lot more important in terms of someone who's a bit more of a volume passer who can kind of break lines and dictate tempo like Romero actually does do for Tottenham. So again, but like you said, if Frank was to come in, he definitely likes going to a back three. So having someone else in there who could be that left-sided is really not bad. Really not a bad option.
Well, why don't we let Henry go through the rest of his suggestions?
All right.
I can then go for mine, and then maybe you just pick. You can kind of hammer.
I'll come back to centre back. It's a difficult
people.
one.
All right. I've got you a double signing from one team.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, just Leon are having an absolute stinking time right now.
Bit of a fire sale
going
going
on.
on.
Turkey here.
No, I'm not saying Rain Shake.
He's going City.
I love Cherky, but
I'm not an idiot.
All right, I just thought. When you mentioned Leon, I'm surely Cherky's the first guy that comes to your mind.
No.
Lacazette.
Because I think about this more than you.
Fair.
Double signing. You want a left winger and you want a striker who can maybe dovetail with Solanke.
Yeah.
I'm offering you Georges Mikhautadze, the striker, the Georgian striker, and their wonder kid, the Belgian 20-year-old wonder kid, Malik Fofana, who is really good. 6 goals, 5 assists last year, which isn't loads, but he was injured a fair bit. He's just been called up to the Belgian national team. Against United, I thought he was quality.
Incredible, yeah.
He was really, really good.
Cherky were amazing.
Liverpool are apparently looking at him as a possible.
Okay.
I think you know when it comes to Tottenham, I'm not going to be like saying you should be signing these well beaters. I think you've got to be honest about where you are sometimes. I think Mikel Tadze got 11 goals in League in last season. They missed out on all European football, by the way, so they do have to sell some players. I reckon if
They've
you
got financial issues as well.
Yeah, big financial.
If you offered 50, 60 million for this pair, I think it's looking good. Fofana on the ball is one of the most direct wingers. I know Shirky gets a lot of praise because he's been in the news a long time.
Yeah.
Fofana, like I said, I've watched him a few times.
Breakout year, isn't he?
Really, really liked him. He's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
I know maybe some Spurs people would like some more ready-made signings. Mikel Tadze comes in. Like, he was really good for Georgia at the Euros as well.
He was, yeah. He was a handful.
He's been a name that's been knocking around for a while, and he's a different profile of striker to Solanke. He's a bit more kind of, I don't know, so it reminds me of a bit of kind of, what was that old Olic, Ivica Olic.
For Bayern.
I get that feeling about him when I watch him. And then finally at CDM, this guy was on loan at Valencia last year. He was brilliant for Valencia. He's called Enzo Baranchea.
Yeah.
He's he's one of I would say one of the best defensive midfielders that people aren't really talking about at the moment. Atletico, Betis and Valencia all want him. If Atletico and Betis want him, I think Spurs would be silly not to take a look at this guy. I think he was hitting like 5 tackles and interceptions per 90 last year. I'm not going to badger people on about stats, but he is one of the principal players that helps, along with Carlos Corberán coming in as coach, helped push Valencia up the table. Valencia are selling well. I mean, he does. It doesn't look like he has a future in that Villa line, and you do get these players sometimes who deserve better than being a loan option, and if they haven't got any space for him, they may as well sell.
Yeah.
So
was it only last summer that Villa bought him? Was that last year? So yeah,
the last summer that they really because obviously they were in the Champions League, they made use of it being in the Champions League and trying to attracting some of these guys.
Yeah, and then loaning them out.
Yeah, so he's just been called up to the Argentine national team squad as well, which is no mean feat.
No.
So he's a good age, 24 years old. I think playing for a season in a club like Valencia, where you have the struggles of the first half of the campaign, then you have the success of the second half, that's such valuable experience. And for him to be a central part of that, I'm amazed that more people aren't looking at him. I reckon if you offered Villa 35 million, 40 million for him, could be an interesting. Yeah, so a bit of an interesting selection. Baranchea, Fofana and Mikel Tadze.
Okay. So you know how Henry said, we've got to realise that this is Spurs and so on and so forth. I've thrown that out the window. We're not being for this Spurs anymore.
No.
Spurs need to put their fucking foot down.
We're champions of Europe.
They need to exactly. They're in the Champions League here. They've got a lot to offer this summer, and someone who you have to offer a lot for. But my God, would he help you out? Go over to Brighton,
Carlos Baleba,
and ask them for Carlos Baleba.
Yeah.
And you put down none of this Spurs bullshit where you're going 50 million. No.
Yeah.
We're offering 70 plus for him.
Yep.
We're offering 70 plus for him. Like Spurs have, they mentioned the DM position of midfielders. They've got quite nice midfielders or DMs whose future, I think Archie Gray, for instance, is in that position, but isn't maybe a ball winner, ball destroyer.
No. He's more of a pivot. I think he's more of a pivot player. Like, needs someone alongside him.
Exactly. And I think Carlos Baleba could be that guy for you. Now, look, it's going to be expensive. It's a Premier League transfer. It's from Brighton. They got over 100 million for Caicedo. I think this guy's out.
And you think they're going to accept 70 million?
I think it's 70.
You're laughing.
It's 70 to 90.
I think you could get in the door. I think you could get in the door with 70 probably.
70 isn't a thing where they go laugh you out the room. 70 is a starting thing.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere between 90. It's a lot of money. And look, you've got 200 million to spend right now. I understand if you were to go for, say, for instance, Cardoso, obviously Real Madrid.
Yeah, it sounds like he might be going to Atletico now.
Supposedly he doesn't want to join you now.
Yeah, that sell-on thing sounds like it's weirdly fallen. I don't know what is going on there. It's one of the weirdest deals I've ever seen.
So I get it. Look, I get it if you're thinking, look, for money, I'd rather bring in more players this summer than splashing all out on Baleba. But this guy he isn't going to be at Brighton for much longer. If no one buys him this summer, next summer he's on the move for sure. This guy's been ridiculous. And I think I don't need to kind of go into details on how incredible he is. People have seen it this season.
Yeah.
He's the next midfield kind of general.
I have him for someone else, by the way, in case you realise this is absolutely mental. That Spurs will be buying him.
Are you thinking Liverpool?
I'm trying to think who you'd got him for.
If you're thinking Liverpool, that would be interesting.
Because this is what I was going to say. I think the advantage Spurs might have with someone like a Baleba, even though I don't necessarily think it's the sort of thing Spurs would do, is that where we had that summer a couple of years ago where Arsenal brought in Rice, Liverpool brought in Gravenberch, Chelsea brought in Caicedo. It feels like a lot of those top teams that Spurs are kind of aspiring to exist alongside. and compete alongside have kind of locked off that position and don't need to necessarily spend that much money in that area, which is why I'm thinking maybe the team you suggest him for is Man United.
But I was going to say Arsenal, actually.
But again,
Arsenal's interesting.
Yeah, but they're getting for Zubimendi, aren't they? I suppose.
Are they?
Are they? Real Madrid, maybe now.
Yeah, true. That
Honestly,
would be funny.
What an odd transfer saga that is. We'll get to that a bit later.
True.
Liverpool first, but yeah, we'll get on to it later. Okay.
But I think that's the advantage Spurs might have, is that not
No
saying
one else
Spurs have
is
a
doing
clear
it.
run, but
I
if they're serious, he's a sort of player that 100% Spurs should be going for.
Arsenal could look at him. I think Liverpool could also look at him as well. Like if they're willing, if Liverpool are willing to just go, you know what, we're just getting the checkbook out.
You are more likely to sign Vitaly Jan out from Brentford.
Yeah, Frank's bringing him. He's not bringing in Mbeumo. But
I thought we'd have a bit of fun here, and I do think Spurs need to capitalise on them being in the Champions League. That's a big thing to offer players this summer, and kind of project on this project where you will keep us in here.
I agree. And one thing that Andrew's spoken about as well, and again, we don't know if he's going to be the manager, but I think he's right, and his sort of idea should echo through the club, no matter who the manager is next season, is that Tottenham need to buy experience this summer. We've brought in a lot of kids who have got high ceilings. Belieber is obviously young. He's 100% young, but I think what Ange meant by experience was that he was talking more about players who are ready to make the step up and play Premier League football now. Yeah. And Belieber, despite being 21, 22, young, he's that. He's had a good couple of seasons now playing at a level where it's quite clear that he can make the step up. Like you would call Caicedo an experienced player now, and he's what, only 20, 22. Like experience isn't just necessarily about that. So, like, this is the more Spurs angle, but this is the dream. This is the desirable angle. But I do really like Baranchea, Villa. Like I do like those shouts. Mikel Tadzer is someone actually I think like in terms of strikers, we've been linked with Rodrygo Muniz as well, and I think having that profile who's a bit more of a I forgot about that. Who's a bit more of a like fox in the box, like someone who is a different profile to Solanke. Like I definitely think you're right in that angle of pursuing that kind of striker.
Who are you picking then?
Wait. I've still got a few more suggestions here. We've got to get through to speed through. So finally, my left wing idea, because I kind of banked on Belabor and thought, well, I haven't got much money here to go. Still going to be expensive, but less than last year. And we know you guys were looking at him last year. Eze.
Yeah.
It's the move that feels like for a couple of years now, it's still not happened. You're just waiting for it to happen. It's funny because also with Gehi possibly leaving, that I can see Palace again trying to drive a hard bargain this summer. He's not necessarily going to be cheap. You're probably looking at 40 to 50 to get him, arguably 60 if they really are trying to hold him down. Eze.
Yeah.
And so, look, the guy, though, can play in midfield, can play left wing if you need him to, kind of fits several of those roles there, but also allows your youngsters who you've also bought to still get the minutes, still get valuable guys. This is a Premier League proven, England international, someone who is ready, I think, to make the step up to European football as well now.
100%. Someone who's also like one of the criticisms I think Palace fans probably had of Eze was that he's an amazing player when things are going really well, but he didn't necessarily step up in the big moments. But that is something that I think, despite actually not don't get me wrong, his numbers have been fantastic this season.
Final.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. This season has kind of rewritten that narrative a bit, despite the numbers in terms of performance, maybe having an underwhelming league campaign compared to the year before. But take that with a pinch of salt because he's still been good, obviously, but I think he was probably better last season. But FA Cup semi-final, FA Cup quarter-final and FA Cup final, he stepped up and delivered in every single game in a big, big way. So Eze, I feel like Eze to Spurs does happen this summer. It feels like there's been a few things that have been spoken about behind the scenes. It feels like
Spurs... fit with Frank as well, wouldn't he?
100%. Spurs have done a lot of groundwork, I think, with that deal because he is represented by the agency that represent a lot of Tottenham's players, CAA base. We obviously tried quite hard for him last summer, but I think the reason that we fell short of that was because the release clause was probably unrealistic. And I think the release clause was unrealistic for a lot of teams because realistically, no team is going to spend... I think it was 60 million plus 8 million, and I think 60 million of it had to be paid up front, which is like... Chelsea aren't doing that. City aren't doing that. So maybe if there can be a renegotiation with that, bear in mind Eze is 2 years away from his Palace contract ending, I think, potentially. And Spurs have that lure of Champions League football and the wages. I think wages was probably another reason why it fell down last summer. But again, if you're losing like someone like Son Heung-min, potentially that's your highest earner. And we know Spurs don't like to break their wage structure, which has been one of my biggest frustrations about Spurs not being able to compete at the top level. We've still signed big players for big money, don't get me wrong, but we don't attract that kind of player because we don't pay them enough money. But I think Eze to Spurs is something that maybe feels a little bit inevitable. I know Palace fans will probably say that's not the case, but I just have a feeling this summer that this might be the one that this might be the year that Spurs just pull the trigger. So I would pick Eze personally, because I think that even though he's not your out and out winger that maybe if Postecoglou was to stay, that Spurs have been crying out for in terms of someone that is quick 1v1 a really good 1v1 dribbler. Eze can do that, don't get me wrong, but he's not necessarily a specific fit straight for that profile. But also, I think you've got to just think about adding pure quality and players that make good decisions in the final third, have that X factor about them to get you over the line in games. He's a problem solver. And again, he might not be 100% the right profile. But again, like I said earlier, with Maddison having injury problems, Kulusevski having injury problems as well, there's still a bit of doubt as to what his position is going to be with Spurs going forward, whether it is on the right or in the middle. I think Eze ticks a lot of boxes for Spurs, and it is what we need going into the Champions League to actually make us kick on and make people think that we're serious as well. So he would be straight away one of.
So putting 50, should we say 50 on Eze?
50. There's
I still think they're going to say
accepting 50.
I still think they're going to ask for like 60.
60
okay,
or 70.
all right, 60.
The thing is,
at least they went for like 55.
the thing is, I think Spurs would pay if it was a £60 million transfer. I don't think Spurs would have any problem with paying that.
But it's the upfront
it was the upfront bit. If Spurs can find a way to negotiate that element, I think Spurs would definitely do it.
Let's say 60 for Eze. Okay. So you've got 140 left on the rest of the players that we've mentioned.
I think Djellab again. It's like it might be a little bit. It's not the sort of thing Spurs would do. But if I'm the director of football, that's 100% what I'm doing. I do like the options though. I do really like.
So shall we say 85?
I accept you could sign Eze. I just don't see.
No, but this is
after 120 million for Caicedo.
Hey, my friend.
120 million. You think?
Yeah,
they're
but
just
they haven't spoke to Ben Bowman. They haven't spoke to this director of football.
Absolutely wafflers.
So we've got one. Let's say 85 on Djellab. That's 145 million pounds we've spent already, right? 85 plus 60. Yeah, 145. So you've got 55 million pounds to spend on another position, and you probably need a centre back.
Yeah, if
20 million for Mikhail Tatse. 20 million for Mikhail Tatse.
I do think we need a striker. I do think we need, but I don't think a striker is necessarily a priority. I think if we can get by with Solanke and then maybe also Tell, we might re-sign Tell as well.
God, I haven't even put him into the money yet. Jeez,
he was lethal.
Well, come on, he's at 90. I think if Frank comes, I think Tell could go to another level. I think he could actually use him really nicely.
What, to a different club?
No. I think also the thing is with Tell is that they're only talking about 30 odd million now. They want to renegotiate.
Yeah, they do want to renegotiate. But you've got 55 to spend here. You probably need another centre back.
The only thing is, I really like both centre back profiles, but
pick a player
again. But I would probably lean towards Branthwaite, but again, that's probably too much money.
I'll give you Branthwaite. I know for 55, I'll give you Branthwaite.
Okay,
I'll give you Branthwaite.
But I do think we should prioritise a right-footed. Out of the options, I think Branthwaite. But
okay.
I would quite also
but
like
you'd rather
Diamonde, someone like that from Sporting actually as well.
Fair. Okay then, that is Spurs done.
Title charge incoming.
Djellab and Branthwaite. That is some big signings. All Premier League based, so of course they do come at a premium. Ben, next club, who would you like to go with?
Let's go the other side, North London. Let's go Arsenal. Let's go to Woolwich.
Okay then. Obviously, Arsenal's issues been mentioned up front. I think midfield and left wing are also possibly places. Where did you go, Henry? You can do your suggestions first. Blast through them.
Well, for starters, I do think they should buy Šeško. I know it's boring. We'll get this debate out of the way first. The whole Gyökeres, who on a podcast with Leo Østigård, his teammate at international level, Østigård was like, let me know if the Arsenal stuff
that was bizarre.
Going. So I wasn't sure if that was...
What did he say?
He was basically like, text me if the Arsenal stuff all goes through. And he was like, yeah, sure. But
there was also another thing where like someone on an Arsenal podcast said that their mate ran into Andrea Berta and he basically said that Gyökeres is coming, apparently. So
isn't it that like Arteta wants Šeško and Berta wants Gyökeres?
I think Berta is a bit like, you know what we were saying with Paratici at the start, where he like lines up a lot of deals and then I think that's how he operated at Atletico by the sounds of it, like lined up a lot of different players in different positions ready to go and then they pulled the trigger.
Wait for manager sign off.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Okay,
well, listen, if whoever they get, it's an exciting signing. I am leaning towards Šeško. I think I just prefer him as a striker, as an all-round package, and I've never not enjoyed watching him. He can score some absolute screamers. I think if he'd only just scored that 1-on-1 against Portugal in the Euros, Slovenia would have. Do you remember? It was an amazing save from the keeper. I want Šeško for Arsenal, and then my other more exciting one. for the left wing, we've already discussed Brighton.
Go
I'm
on.
going Mitoma.
Do you know what? I really like that shout.
I said Matoma as well.
Yeah, have you actually?
I put Matoma down.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been massively. Sorry, go on. I think he's been massively overlooked in this conversation about wingers.
Yeah, he's listen. If you
A little
can
bit
say-
older.
if you can say, well, look, that's fine.
I agree.
Arsenal now need to win a trophy, and he's 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career. 10 goals, 4 assists, some beautiful goals. He's a different profile of striker to left winger to Martinelli, which I think is important. He's a much more delicate kind of player, intricate. I think he could probably do a job through the middle if push comes to shove. There's no wonder that Bayern Munich are looking at him as an alternative.
Yeah.
Who did they miss out on?
They were going to go for Gittins. It sounded like they were going to go
Wirtz as
for
well.
Gittins
Something
and
like
Wirtz,
that. So yeah, there's no wonder I think Bayern are looking at him. Matoma, huge name in Japan. Always helps as a kind of signing as well.
They've got his teammate, don't they?
So yeah, I think Matoma would be he deserves a move away from Brighton. I don't think Brighton are gonna charge silly money for him. I reckon for like 50-55 million pounds, you could get Matoma.
You've both got him, right?
So I put Matoma as well on the left wing.
Get
as
him.
my
Get
shout.
him in.
Yeah.
Happy. I completely agree with everything
Okay.
Henry said there.
And then I have gone for a centre back who.
Centre back.
Another one.
Well, this is the thing. Essentially, Gabriel and Saliba, and then what? It was Kivior for a lot of last year as well.
But they do have Calafiori who gets injured. Ben White
Timber.
plays there. Timber.
Timber's more of a.
He's a fullback. Yeah, he's the
He's a-
fullback. But it's
yeah.
Ben
He can
White
play-
or Timber, I guess, could do
The
that.
way I see it is Ben White and Timber who are the right back options, and then it's Calafiori /
Marzu Skelly.
Lewis Skelly as the left back
Or
options.
Zinchenko.
But isn't this why Arteta bought all of those players so they could cover off different positions? It feels like they bought fullback profiles that could also cover at centre half. That's what it felt like.
Who was
well,
your
listen,
suggestion?
I'm probably going to get absolutely hammered for this, but he had a horrific Champions League final because he came on for 8 minutes and went off injured. But it was the big Jan Bissek at centre half.
For apparently 40
He
million.
has had a
though,
good
but-
year this year.
Yeah.
He's had a
Inter
good year
Milan,
this
yeah,
year.
he's had a really good year against Arsenal in the competition proper. He was excellent.
Yeah, he was actually.
He was at Aarhus in Denmark before. He's had a bit of a weird career, but he's really come of age. He's a man mountain. This is the thing. I don't think he has to start. I don't think he has to start for Arsenal. He can and on the ball, he's surprisingly
decent. He's
effective.
okay,
he can
yeah.
drive forward and he can pass. So those are the first two players I'm going to put forward. I'm going to say like 40 million for Jan Bissek from Inter, who probably will sell, and then we've Matoma, who sounds like he's
Okay.
Yeah,
So I think we've got to be interesting here. So I'm not against any of Henry's stuff here. What I'm going to do, though, is give you maybe alternatives for some of them. Matoma's, there's no alternative. I agree.
Yeah.
Matoma has to be done. I think you get him for around 50, 55.
Especially like this is the year that Arsenal have got to win.
Exactly.
So it's like
Exactly.
I think people
Age
look at
isn't too
27,
big of a-
28-year-olds and they get scared. It's
Agreed.
like he's in his prime. Like,
Agreed.
Go and do it.
My other suggestion to a striker is Ollie Watkins. Like, Sesko is going to cost you 70 million plus by the looks of it. He's an expensive boy. I think you get Ollie Watkins this summer for 40 to 50, realistically. Look, we know about Aston Villa's kind of issues PSR-wise. We know they have thought previously, or there was the talks that before John Duran left, they were actually asking Arsenal if they'd be interested in bringing in Watkins in January. I think Watkins' end last season with Villa was very interesting with how he was kind of mentioning he didn't get to play in the big games in the Champions League, so on and so forth. I think he would love a move to Arsenal. He would also complement, I think, Kai Havertz because he's a different kind of striker to him. So is Sesko, to be fair. And it's not that I don't like the Sesko move at all. I just think there's maybe a cheaper alternative there if you want to save money. I also think midfield, Zubimendi deal, we don't know what's going to happen there. They are definitely looking at a more of a DM. I still think that actually Declan Rice should be that DM and go for more of a central midfielder. I thought, again, I think Arsenal should keep an eye on we mentioned him previously a couple of months ago for Spurs, but I think Arsenal should keep an eye on the De Jong deal. At Barca. Like, we don't know what's happening there. If he doesn't sign this new deal soon, then Barca are going to want to sell him. That's what Laporta said many a times. Players going into their final year will be sold in the summer before. And so I think they should keep an eye on him. I also wonder, United have their financial issues. It's been mentioned before. I think Kobe Mainu in this Arsenal team could be really, really fun. Really fun. I wouldn't suggest it with Pat here, that's for sure. But I think it's something that could be he has different opinions about Mainu, but I think that could be a really fun choice to add to that Arsenal midfield.
Pat also thinks Scott McTominay is the biggest waste of space going. So
go on, Napoli.
But yeah, so those would be my suggestions there. A cheaper alternative to striker. I agree with Matoma, and I'd be going with a Frankie de Jong, possibly Kobe Mainu.
There's another centre midfielder I can see there on your list that I really like the idea of.
Which one? The
top one.
Okay. I just think it's maybe... I've put him down. I put down Yuri Tielemans. Because I think obviously a fantastic year this year. Really stepped up for that Villa side.
Yeah, but they don't need it. They don't need him.
Arsenal.
They need a defensive midfielder.
But this is why I think you play Declan Rice there. I think Rice is your DM.
But he's not, though. It's been proven this year that he's not.
Yeah, but I still think he is a better DM. I think he's a better DM than...
Factually proven that he's better as a number 8, bombing back and forwards.
I agree with that.
There is no planet where you make Declan Rice your sole central midfielder. I'm not CDM. It hasn't worked particularly for England. He is best when he's marauding forward. He's one of the hardest workers. You've seen what he can do at the other end of the pitch. I'm sorry, Zach. He is 1,000,000% not. I think he's an amazing midfielder.
But he's not just sitting in front of the defence, in a DM position, is he? He still goes forward.
He's not. Lewis Skelly's coming from left back to do a lot of that as well.
He's not a pure CDM.
I personally think he could. Yeah, exactly. And I think he could still do that at DM.
But it's not a case of just being able to do it. It's a case of getting a specialist in.
But it's quite clear from what I would agree, but also at the same time from what it sounds like Arsenal are looking for. It doesn't sound like they are looking for that, because Zubimendi's not that. Zubimendi is for me, Zubimendi, whenever I watched him, is kind of a get it, give it, volume kind of passer. He's not necessarily, he can break up play, but he's not got the frame of a proper defensive midfielder. He's not I don't think he's as athletic as maybe some of the other players like Gravenberch or maybe Caicedo, someone like that. I don't think he to me is more of a tidy, get it, give it, break up play rather than an out and out defensive midfielder. And I actually think, I think they'll get Zubimendi, to be honest. I think they will go through. But I really like the idea of Tielemans, because I think you've seen it time and time again with Villa. I think he's the perfect sort of player. Again, he's not that DM kind of profile either, really. But for what Arsenal sound like they're looking for, I think that bit of Premier League experience, he's so good at breaking through that kind of first line of a press to then give it to a Rice. If you had Tielemans and... if Arsenal do what they kind of have done in the past and play Timber, right back, Saliba, Gabriel, tuck them 3 into a back 3, Lewis Skelly comes into here, you've got Skelly and Tielemans, Rice, Odegaard, and then your front three. I like Tielemans as a shout. I think it will be Zubimendi.
I don't see Villa selling him. That was I put him there to maybe suggest, but
then again, the only thing
was Player of the Year last year. I think Villa have a lot of players they're willing to sell. I do not believe
it's a lot of profit that they got for someone on a free.
It would be a lot of profit, very, very true. And maybe PSR-wise that does help.
And are they going to sell Rodgers? I doubt it. Yeah. I don't know. I think it will be Zubimendi, but I like Tielemans.
Who are you picking then?
Which is the striker when you go for? Watkins or Sesko?
How much did we say for Matoma? 50 mil?
I think 50 mil, 50 to 60, 55.
I think so, 50 gone on Matoma. I would probably, because I think half of Arsenal's issues up front aren't necessarily about the striker. I think getting the winger is actually equally as important. I think you're signing someone with that proven quality. I don't mind them taking the gamble on spending a bit more on Sesko as a younger option. Because I think if you can, Sesko's still raw obviously, but if you supplement him with chances continually, which I think you're going to do with Saka with those crosses, Matoma with that ability to beat a man, get to the byline, cut it back, I think he'll score a decent amount of goals. And so that's 60 plus 50, 110.
I think it might be a little bit more than 60. I think.
Okay, say 100. Say we've got 80 million left. I think it will be Zubimendi, but I also quite like Tielemans as a shout. And if you say 40, 50
maybe. I think really, if they can get De Jong, you prioritise De Jong.
De Jong is, I think, staying. He's staying in Barcelona.
He wants to stay, doesn't he? It's just whether this contract happens. I agree. I think he'll end up staying now. But you want to go Yuri? Fuck it. Why not? Fuck yeah. Yuri Tielemans. Welcome to Arsenal. Sesko and of course
Villa fans are not going to be happy about that.
No, not at all. Your next club then?
Let's go Chelsea.
All right, let's do Chelsea then. What I want to do as well, from this 200 million, 30 has been spent on Liam Delap already, so we've got 170 left. We've already got one striker in, and I don't mind kicking things off really quickly. Mike Maignan,
I love it. It's nailed on.
It's done,
do
it?
it.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I cannot believe they're playing hardball over this.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Agree with
I saw a great thing that said before, like someone was like, "You before spent loads of money," and it's like, but if your mate's girlfriend kept cheating on him, and he went back to you and said like, "Oh, I've forgiven her," and you're like, "What are you doing, mate?" "Oh, I've forgiven her," and then he finally goes, "Oh yeah, I've actually dumped her now," and you go, "Oh, you forgave her all the other times. What's wrong there?" Like, okay, I actually don't mind playing hardball, but
Also,
still,
Italian clubs are the master of playing hardball,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit.
we'll put, I think, 20 million on Mike Maignan. I'm more than happy to do that. I think that's absolutely fine. So that's 50 million.
Get
That's
that
50
done.
million spent on Mike Maignan. Great deal. Henry, really quickly, what do you think of the Mike Maignan deal?
I mean, it's AC Milan have honestly capitulated. Hernandez going potentially to Saudi for 30.
Reinder's gone.
Reinder's gone. I just Leao. We'll get on to him, and then Maignan. Yeah, it's
The core.
like the core. This is a team that had won Serie A a few years ago, got to the semi-finals of the Champions League.
Yeah.
Looks like they'd finally returned as a
Serious.
serious place to go kind of club. And they got rid of Maldini. They basically pushed Pioli out the door, and it's all gone Pete Tong over there. It's gone horribly wrong, and they're kind of back to square one. Like if you're Pulisic, he also is really good. Like if you're probably going bloody hell. Like maybe I should be getting it. Maybe his agent should be calling some of these.
Just
clubs.
wait for later on because
Mike Maignan, if they can get him for that little money, I think that solves the problem.
So many issues.
You go right. Jorgensen, I think, still probably got some value.
might go on loan.
Like go on loan somewhere. You'd have to do some serious manoeuvring in the market for some of your goalkeepers.
Petrovic, is he back up? Sell Sanchez?
I'll just stick him out at bloody Strasbourg again. So the point being, this would be a game changing. Enough pissing about. Just get a good goalkeeper in. That's that.
Great shot stopper. Good with the ball at his feet as well. Experience. Was sometimes leader of AC Milan.
He's only 29. So
For a goalkeeper, fantastic
Great
age.
7 years of greatness.
I think really, really good deal this could be for Chelsea.
Just do it.
I think it's fantastic.
Stick
and
that one on there.
even if it ended up going to like £25 million, not bad
absolutely
at
fine.
all. So that's our 50 million spent on Liam Djellab and Mike Maignan. Just felt like we had to talk a little bit about Mike Maignan because we haven't mentioned him at all yet. And the deal really did just come out of nowhere. But good move for him, for someone moving into his final year. All right, my other suggestions, guys. Chelsea looking at a left winger.
Are they? I thought they were on a right winger.
Left winger is the big one for Chelsea because they've got William Esteval coming in. He's the guy supposedly going to play on the right. I've done this more out of love for the guy, Xavi Simons. I fucking love Xavi Simons. I've loved him for seasons now. I think he's incredible, versatile. Obviously, forward, can play on the right, can play attacking midfield. Spent most in his entire career played most on the left. It's like by just a few, but spent most of his time on the left, I guess, if you look at it that way. The guy's ridiculous. Like, last season, he's got 18 goals. And also, last time, when he's played off the left, he's got 18 goals and 17 assists. Great at everything. I think whether it's the dribbling, fantastic. Creatively, fantastic. Can finish really well as well. Still got time to be developed. He's still young. This is somebody for years has always been kind of mentioned as a wonder kid. He was at PSG for a long time. Was at La Masia Academy graduate. Then has gone to RB Leipzig for the last 2 seasons. Obviously did really well when he was in the Netherlands as well. Done pretty well with RB Leipzig, even though RB Leipzig have had a poor year this year for their standards. They bought him officially in January. That deal was done. He supposedly has a release clause of around £59 million this summer. And I think that is a steal. I genuinely do. I think that is a fantastic deal for someone of this quality. Look, how would he adapt to the Premier League, a much more physical league? I think would be interesting, but I really would back him to kind of do that. He's played Champions League football as well. Yeah. He has that experience. This isn't just like Chelsea. Like Chelsea have been linked to obviously Jamie Byner-Gittens, which is a really interesting move. Youngster, a touchline winger, very much kind of from the, I would say, school of Noni Madueke. Is how I would put it. Wants to kind of beat his man, can go down to that line, put the cross in. Maybe Madueke's more of taking the shot. And I don't mind it, but I kind of want someone that's a little bit more closer to the finished article. I think Gittens could be this great winger, of course, But there's also a lot of risks here where he doesn't develop into this guy. He hasn't had necessarily the most incredible season for Borussia Dortmund. Whereas Xavi Simons, I feel there's a lot more certainties around him. You have much more of an established player, someone who would come into that dressing room and possibly be taking a starting position, out on that left wing. And if you're lining up next season with a front four of Cole Palmer, Xavi Simons, one of Esteval, Madueke, Neto, and one of Jackson Liam Djellab, I'm more than happy with that. That's fantastic in my eyes. So he would be my left winger shout. Of course, there are other guys there. I also worry as well that, like, if you bring in Gittins, Tyreek Jordan's had a fantastic year for Chelsea this year. Yeah. Like, his breakout year. I think he should probably go on loan next year. But he is only a year younger than Gittins. Yeah,
does it block his
that blocks his
path
bit? Massively. And if Chelsea are backing this guy, then the question mark's over it for me. There are other guys that there. Henry might suggest, I guess, like Rodrygo or Rodgers, who Chelsea have been linked to.
Rodrygo
for Real Madrid.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You gonna say him?
I had basically just pump up that attack really. Like, you need a centre back. Chelsea need a centre back.
Mark Gehi. I've put down.
Yeah, fine. Right, fine. You can have that. Rodrygo is definitely gettable because he's fed up of being the B side of what.
Undeservedly so. He's a fantastic player. He's such a good player, man.
And it's almost like they just don't consider what he might want in these situations. So I do think that. I do think that he is 100% someone that. It's so. And what's a shame about Rodrygo is I think if he was in a different club, everyone would be like, "This is one of the best." Yeah. But the problem is because he's so often overshadowed, and now kind of almost left out of the equation with Mbappe in there sometimes. If you stick him in that Chelsea lineup, and I think you've got, it will cost like 90 million. Yeah, it wouldn't be cheap. It would be a very, very expensive deal. Yeah. But you are talking about, again, someone who is a winner. Sorry, I think he's got the technical. For some reason, someone like a Werner doesn't always necessarily work at Chelsea. You don't want someone who's going to play on the shoulder and sprint in. Like, he is a technically brilliant footballer. And I think that's where it really helps him. So yeah, Rodrygo, he's been around a winning team for so long. And I think he's got something to prove, which I think is quite interesting in an A-list like that. And he's also a selfless player. Yeah. So him, or the other option I was going to put forward is Nico Williams as well as an option on the left.
Sounds like he might be signing a new deal. I don't think that guy's ever going to leave.
You know what it is?
It's the wages, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bilbao's it's such a funny... It's
nice city as well.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Yeah, it's just so intriguing. Like, they can offer. He's currently on 200 grand a week.
His next one's gonna be 300. Mate.
It's fucking ridiculous.
They just don't spend money on anyone.
And Chelsea, I think Chelsea don't really give these wages out anymore. Like, I think apart from Reece James and Raheem Sterling, who were kind of there before this kind of implemented. I think Cole Palmer's not even on.
It's like Sancho wanted more money than Palmer.
And they've been that off.
I had a young Monaco centre back, Wilfried Singo, that I'd thought about as well. He scored an absolute thunderbolt in the Champions League this year.
I think Chelsea need to be doing get experience in centre back.
Go for Gehi then. We need to
speed through.
Needs to be done by 12.
I think let's get Gehi done. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So are you going to go for Rodrygo or Xavi Simons as the Chelsea left winger here? So we're going to put, I reckon, between the three players, Mike Maignan, Djellab and Gehi, let's say we spent 100 million.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got 100 million left. 90 for Rodrygo or 60 for Xavi Simons, and maybe with 40 million we can go chuck on a left back somewhere.
Okay.
Or we can do, give 40 million to me. Go give 40 million to me to do some presenting.
I think I really want to see Xavi Simons in the Prem. It's something that I thought about for a long time. I do think.
I also wouldn't mind Rodrygo in the Prem either.
Neither would I. But I also think with Simons, obviously, one of the things that you do get you get quite a lot of fluidity in that front line. I think with Palmer and Simons combining quite well. One of the issues that Chelsea have had, it feels like this season, is maybe trying to undo low blocks, and maybe that extra bit of creativity with Simons kind of floating in there. Maybe Cucurella kind of going around him a bit more rather than doing what he's been doing this season. I do like the idea of that, but I also feel like Chelsea probably just do need to. Chelsea find a lot of players and this isn't me saying that I don't rate Simons, because I love him and I definitely want to see him in the Premier League. But it feels like Chelsea, rather than signing another kind of Felix or Nkunku type where maybe you don't really know what his best position is or he can play in all these positions, it feels like if you're going to go and you want to add to that attack, I think it's got to be a specialised player in that role. And I think Rodrygo ticks those boxes more. And I think it's just that bit of X factor as well. Like you said as well, like you want someone in Maresca's system who is selfless, who is willing to do a lot of hard yards, who wouldn't even, he probably would come into Chelsea and be the star, but you've also got Palmer and these guys as like your franchise players as well.
Can help coach through Esteval as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Brazilian
It's
kid.
interesting with Esteval. I saw a thing the other day that apparently he wanted to come and play in the 10, but he's
Yeah.
not going to. Surely that's not going to happen. Not straight away anyway.
He's
but
very much right
I think it's Rodrygo. I think you
come
push
on,
the
then.
boat out on Rodrygo and go for it.
Okay, Rodrygo it is. Mike Maignan, Djellab, Rodrygo and Mark Gehi making their way
It's
to
a hell of a
Chelsea.
summer, that. That's a
Yeah,
hell
that
of a
is
summer.
some summer.
Good summer. Actually, very good. Though,
Toboli, are you
Xavi
listening?
Simmons. Okay, next club then, Ben. You've got Newcastle, Liverpool, City and Man United to get through.
Let's go with. Let's go with Liverpool because I feel like we can probably tick off
So-
that one. We know what's happening.
Yeah.
Frimpong, done.
Yeah.
We've got to put
30.
money 30 in there. I think we're going to... Florian Wirtz is done. It is. Whether it's 130 or 100, let's put it at like a rough 105.
To be honest, Kirkes is probably going to be done as well.
Yeah.
There's not
That's
really much
there. Somewhere left.
to
Yeah.
say about
So
Liverpool.
Kirkes might be done as well. But we'll throw in. Let's just say Liverpool. They've stored extra money. Maybe got an extra 100 million there.
Yeah,
in the
some
bank.
player sales.
Yeah, sure. They've not really spent much money as well over the last couple of summer. So I have gone for here. I didn't expect you to take Believer.
Okay.
So I was going to suggest him for Liverpool, but they do need a DM. I think they need to get someone in who
What do you
maybe.
mean?
No, I think Gravenberch. No.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
got
sure.
such a settled two.
No, but I think
They're
they need more
best in the
midfield.
world.
They need more midfield.
Oh.
They there's rumours Endo's going to leave. They need to bring in another kind of ball-winning midfielder just in case. I think that's an idea.
I'll take Endo at Fulham.
But fine.
Every other week.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Look, the other guy I was going to possibly say
Tom Kelly.
is Boniface up top.
Wow.
So if they're bringing Wirtz, I wonder if they're going to play Wirtz in a false nine. I wonder if that's going to work. If that helps. But traditionally, slot striker has always been a bigger kind of target number 9. You think of it was Jimenez, obviously, previously in the Eredivisie. And I wonder, it hasn't worked out with Nunes. They're going to try and ship off Nunes. They're going to have to bring in some sort of other attacker. And if, they're going to say, look, maybe Wirtz might play false 9. He probably wouldn't end up playing in the midfield as a 10. Could also play out on the wing as well, possibly. They still need some sort of focal point. And whilst it does sound weird, I guess, because we're so used to talking about Liverpool with like a Firmino up top, or even like Diego Jota's not like a classic number 9 either, is he?
No.
I think Boniface would, be able to come in, understand that maybe not every game he's going to play, not every game he's going to start, but he's joining the Premier League champions. He's going to be playing under a fantastic manager in a good squad, being part of the new Liverpool side. And I think you can get him at a decent fee as well. Like, I don't think it's going to cost an arm and a leg to get him, especially in the striker market where other strikers are going for crazy figures. I think 50 might be the max you might have to go and get his services for next season. I think he'd not appreciate it, but I think he would understand that if he doesn't have to be the main number 9, or he might have to play a bit of a rotating side, he might not start every single game.
Yeah.
I think he'd understand that. And look, this is someone that has had injury issues at times, so you'd have to be careful with him. But his game would suit the Premier League side that is becoming much more physical, where he's dealing with obviously strong defenders. I think he'd fit in quite easily. So yeah, that's my Liverpool guy there. If we're saying obviously they're signing Kirkes, Wirtz and Frimpong already done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Henners?
The Ekitike rumours are like, but 100 million on Ekitike is wild, considering.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't like. That's just fair play to Eintracht. That's them just going, look, we're not just getting rings.
We're not getting our pants pulled down here.
Yeah. And he's only been there for a year. He's got a big contract. He doesn't need. It's a long contract. I'm going to get absolute pelters for this, and maybe rightly so. I think if Rafael is available for that left flank, I just think like Salah occupies so many defenders in a way that the left winger doesn't currently. I know that Leao is really inconsistent. I do accept that entirely, but I do think there's something to be said that he's been at Milan for a long time. He was probably the main man for a bit, and then this year it's been really frustrating. He's had multiple different managers, and I think he's just lost a bit of the love of playing for the Rossoneri. I think he needs an upgrade. One thing you can't deny about him is on his day, he is unplayable. He's electric, he's fast, he's bullish. You stick him on that left-hand side, watch him cause a nightmare to defences. That opens up so much space for whoever you've got going through the middle, be it Jota, Nunes. I agree, they need a new striker. But so yeah, I just think 50, 60 million on Leao could be a really
like he's still putting up numbers. It's not as if he's not producing any goals or assists.
There have been rumours as well for Leao in Liverpool. They have looked at him.
He needs a change of scene. He's got a bit of the X factor about him. And I think if you go to a club where you're not the main man, where there's no excuse but to step up and be the guy at Liverpool, then I do think you'll see a much better version of him. Like, I mean,
and his game would suit the Premier League. Like the way he plays, like his ability to take on a defender.
Yeah,
he's not like a small guy. He's like 6 foot. He's like this weird. It looks weird seeing him do what he does sometimes because he's so physical.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Liverpool play next season as well, with losing Trent and bringing in Frimpong, a quite different profile. Slot kind of getting his kind of fists more into that Liverpool team because of the fact that he's actually had a transfer window where he's bringing in quite a lot of players and wants to mould it in his way.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about Liverpool, bear in mind the fact they are still quite a transition-heavy team, although they do like to keep some more of the ball under Slot. And Leao, for that, like you said, in terms of Salah occupying 2 defenders on that side, how many times did we see it last season where Trent was able to come to the middle, play that ball out to the left winger, and then Gakpo or Diaz is 1v1 and then you're in. It's interesting that I saw this, but literally before we start recording, Liverpool have rejected an approach for Diaz from Barca, saying that they don't even want to sell him. They didn't even reject a bid. So, and there's also been rumours with Gakpo going to Bayern Munich, but apparently Gakpo's not for sale as well. So that left winger doesn't sound like it's a massive priority for Liverpool, which I totally understand why people would maybe... Because I thought Diaz would be off. I thought he would be. So I understand why people would put left wingers forward. I do like the idea of Leao because I think I want to see it. I want to see more. I know it's in there with Leao. Sorry, Ekitike is one I think they'll be priced out of, and I think they should probably leave that alone. But I do think again, with the fact that I think signing someone that can play up front and on the wing would be quite smart for Liverpool. And I think Ekitike can definitely do that. In the moments that they do get in transition, he's a very good ball carrier.
Drop deep as well if needed.
He's kind of got that Henry type, like it's going to sound crazy, but that Henry type thing of coming in off the left and bending it in the bottom corner, which he did against Tottenham in the Europa League quarter-final. Leao's a fun one because I kind of want to see it happen, but I also do like the idea of them actually just bringing in a bit more like a striker. So I'd probably, out of the 2 options, I probably would go for Boniface because it feels like they might be leaving that left-hand side. And also Wirtz might play out there at times as well. We do kind of see him move over into that left-hand side, which could be quite interesting. So I think a striker is priority over a left winger from what it sounds like at Liverpool. So I'd probably go for Boniface, I think.
Fair enough. I think, Leao would be fun. Leao would be a fun summer.
It also does sound like they're looking at strikers as well because they were linked with Gonzalo Ramos as well, weren't they, at PSG? So they are. It sounds like a striker is more of a priority. Okay, so would you like for the next team to go with City, Newcastle or Man United? Let's go Man United. All right, let's go through them then. Cunha's done for 62 million. Check. We can't be giving United extra funds here because they're already, I think, scraping the barrel. They've sacked the tea lady and everything. Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I don't mind the Mbeumo move. Like I as much as I actually hate the fact he's going to go there because I love Mbeumo. It makes a lot of sense, especially if they're getting rid of other kind of attacking players like Garnacho, who's thinking about possibly moving on. They have rejected the Bruno move, which I think is smart. Adding in these guys is good. Cunha works on that left-hand side. If Mbeumo is your right attacking midfielder, that makes sense to me as well. This is someone who I think has developed year after year after year. Mm-hmm. I will be very interested to see how he works in what they hope to be a more dominant possession-based style, not playing maybe on the transition as much as he did slightly for I was going to say Benfica then, for Brentford. So that will be interesting. But again, it's going to cost you. We've seen already United have had basically a £50 million bid rejected. Yeah. Brentford are saying to 70. I think they're going to probably end up meeting in the middle of 60. If United spend 70 on Mbeumo, whatever. A lot of people got made redundant. That's a lot of money, man. A lot of people got made redundant for this cashless club. Yeah. That's a lot of money to spend on someone who I don't know if he'll hit the ground running straight away. No. 70 million is a figure where you're now expecting one of the world's best players here. I think that's where you maybe walk away, to be honest. I really like Mbeumo, and I think, like you said, he's a good fit for that right-hand side number 10. I also think I would agree that I'd have maybe more concerns about him playing in the possession dominant side, but what I think you can get then is a bit more rotation with Ahmad coming into that 10 and Mbeumo moving to that not wing back position, but when they're in possession, he can go out wide. You can rotate a little bit there to kind of unpick the lock. And I do think the evolution of Frank's Brentford team this season, where they have been a little bit more aggressive and teams haven't come onto them as much, they've had to kind of find a way to press high, win the ball back that kind of way, and attack first rather than defend and counter, which I think is a bit of a lazy analysis of Brentford sometimes. I do think they've definitely moulded into more of an aggressive, hungry attacking team at home, certainly now they've found their sort of level in the Prem. So I think Mbeumo would adjust to that quite well. Is he technically good enough to combine in those spaces all the time? That might be a bit of a question mark, but again, you've got Ahmad who can come in there. But I think that I quite like the dynamic of Xerxes and Mbeumo, Cunha front three.
It can work, can't it? It can move around as well, which is interesting. Because I slightly worry for the United striker. I don't know where. We're looking at the ones that are left. Unless there's a crazy loan move for Osimhen, I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I don't see Victor Gyökeres leaving a club where he's playing in the Champions League to go to United.
The only thing with Gyökeres is that I would say if further down the line
for Amorim,
I think if further down the line someone in Europe comes in for Fernandes, which the suitors are kind of few and far between. With Real Madrid probably don't need him, Barcelona ain't got the money, those kind of things. But if they sell Fernandes and then they're able to get some money for Rashford, Garnacho, pure profit, homegrown players, then maybe they go, 50, 60 mil for... Because it feels like people are leaving Gyökeres alone. No, I was going to say for Gyökeres.
Yeah.
And maybe they do...
But why does he want to go there? Why would he want to go there?
Amorim is my only thinking.
I say that. They just signed Cunha and Mbeumo,
it's obviously still United.
I've got a striker who I actually think is really smart. It's going to be quite boring, but this is for the real football lovers out there. Jonathan Burkhardt of Mainz at the moment. He got 18 goals last season, 2 assists. He's almost hit double figures the previous 2 seasons, and one of those included an injury. He's in the Germany squad. He's been dubbed Germany's next number 9. Okay. He's super young. They've already reportedly been looking at him at the moment. Mainz play a 3-4-2-1. Ooh, who else plays a 3-4-2-1? What an interesting idea this could be.
I like it.
He doesn't do much defending or anything, but he's a bit of a shot monster.
That's what
Gets in the box. He's 5'11". He's a bit... I would say he's the German version of Liam Djellab right now. So
they were looking at
and he can play on the wing. He can play out wide. He can play through the middle. He's probably available for £30 million. Eintracht are looking at him as well as a possible replacement.
That's normally a good sign.
And this is the point. Look at who these clubs are. Look at who these players are being looked at by other clubs. They shouldn't. You don't need to spend 65 million on Cunha all the time when you can try and I know that people have said that about Højlund and Xerxes. My issue of Højlund and Xerxes, which I've said countless times on this show and on other platforms, is that they only had one good season at the top. They only had one good season in fairly specialist systems, and then they bought them because they were like, we need to beat the...
How many good seasons this guy had?
Punch. So, Dorgu could turn out to be quite a smart signing, even though they are buying players from Lecce. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Burkhardt has had 5 seasons at Mainz. Okay, nice. 3 of those he's been scoring goals.
Okay, nice.
And 18 last season in the Germany squad at the moment. He may have withdrawn, I'm not sure, of an injury. But look at these kind of guys.
And United do need to buy more players as well.
They can't just buy. They can't spend 65 million on every single player.
Agreed.
So I've gone for him, and then another one I think will be really good is Edison at Atalanta.
I've got the exact same one.
Have you got him? All right,
45
there you go. That's job done.
I think that's one. Edison is really good. I'm surprised he's not come to the Prem before. I think City have been looking at him. At times, Tottenham have looked at him as well in the past. Bit of a 6, bit of an 8. Someone who can break it up. He's just better. He's just better than Nagate. He's better than Casemiro. Well, Casemiro, to be fair, had a good run in the Europa League, but they need to freshen up that midfield. He's probably a better fit for what they want to do than someone like a Kobe Mainoo, which is quite sad. I don't. You wouldn't want to see him.
Amorim doesn't seem to quite.
Nah.
Or he just doesn't quite fit in Amorim's system.
I think another player they might look at is Schulman from Sporting Lisbon because he's played in that system.
He's good.
But he's pretty decent. So I like Edison. I'd probably get him through the door. Feels like they need another midfielder.
Okay.
Have we got a wing back here as well?
Well, I don't think we've got enough money for a wing back, mate. I'm going to be honest. Because if they've done Cunha and Mbeumo, that's 120. And
Edison's going to be at least 50.
Edison's 50, and then we're giving, obviously, let's say 35
for
your striker.
I'm not going to pretend that I've seen a load of this guy, but let's go for it. I trust your opinion.
But they need probably more players than they do. I guess one, Gyökeres isn't going to fix everything.
No.
They need a few different guys.
So I was like, get some free agents.
And if they've still got Xerxes,
it also sounds like Højlund's going out on loan potentially as well. So they actually do need to replace. As much as Højlund's been really bad, they need to replace him. So. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
Okay, I'm okay with that as well. So, is it Mbeumo or Mbeumo?
I keep saying both. So
okay, one of those. Cunha Ederson and Henry's striker called
Burkhard.
Nice. So there you have Man United fans. That is how you guys are spending £200 million. Obviously, things can change if you sell players as well. Let's jump on to Newcastle then and do City last.
Yeah.
Newcastle then, I think, need goalkeeper, right winger as the priorities. And of course, I think a centre-back would be fun to add to the side as well.
Yep.
Right winger, my first option, Anthony Elanga.
Yeah, I like that.
Obviously, had a fantastic year at Nottingham Forest. Forest, in the end, didn't quite manage to reach the Champions League heights that they were hoping. Still got Conference League football. That is fun for Forest. But I think Elanga could... I think he's shown this year he is some player. There is a fantastic player there. And I thought Mbeumo was going to be the guy that would go to Newcastle. Like that move was going to happen.
That's like one of the most nailed on transfers of the summer.
Especially when they got Champions League football. And it didn't happen. But he is somebody who, Elanga this being, does everything that is needed in this right wing position. And also, we'll have competition from Murphy. Murphy's been fantastic this year, and I would like to think would continue the same kind of form next year. But to have a nice competitor there with him in Elanga would be fantastic. Someone that also, I think, improve under Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe has this ability to improve players. And I think seeing Elanga go to the next level under him is something that could happen quite easily. Look, he won't be cheap. I think they spent a decent fee to get him from Manchester United. You're probably looking at 50 to 60 to get Elanga. He's also not super old either. He can kind of grow with this Newcastle side and develop with them. But I think £60 million is probably a decent fee to get him. I really don't hate it, to be honest. I also I know we've mentioned Noni Madueke a few times. I feel like, I don't know, he seems to be quite a part of that Chelsea side. I've seen reports saying
I saw that report that
Chelsea are open to offers, but I feel like that's got to be 60 plus.
That's got to be rubbish.
Him.
Sure, I know it came from The Guardian as well. It's quite reputable. I was surely not.
The other guy I thought maybe for the right wing is Kudus at West Ham, but again, very expensive.
Also, I don't see it working under Howe. I feel like he's a bit too.
My goalkeepers. Lucas Chevalier obviously won Ligue 1's Goalkeeper of the Year. £40 million max, I think, is what you're going to get him for. This is somebody who had a great year last season in Ligue 1, developing, kind of does all the things that a modern-day goalkeeper needs to be doing now. And I've mentioned before, if Newcastle want to kind of take the side to the next level, and this doesn't have to happen. I understand. I think Nick Pope is a fantastic keeper, does a really good job at keeping that ball out of the goal, and that is the number one priority for a goalkeeper. But Chevalier does that as well. Did that this season fantastically. Can also play the ball at his feet. He is a little bit maybe more on the expensive side for a goalkeeper, but you could probably get that a little bit less, about £35 million. James Trafford is someone they're looking at as well, at the moment, for £30 million. Englishman, getting homegrown, makes sense. I think it also makes understand if Burnley sell him or he wants to leave to go to a Champions League club. I'm also going to say Marcin Bolka for Ligue 1 as well. And this is where my centre-back suggestion comes in, Zabani. But
I just don't think... he's apparently been linked with PSG. I'm not sure they can... I'll give you a direct centre-back to go against. I've got Evan Ndicka at Roma.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Who's played 38 games this year. He
was always been highly rated, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at Frank. Yes, you're right. Went on a free transfer, or Mönchengladbach, one of the two, I can't remember. But anyway, he went on a free transfer to Roma. He's been brilliant. They just missed out on European football, despite Claudio Ranieri doing an absolute
unbelievable
storming job. So I know Gasperini is a good guy to work under. Apparently, he's rejected the move to Arsenal. I imagine that's because he probably wouldn't get in the start there at Arsenal. I think Evan Ndicka is an elite level centre back, and Zabani. I struggle to see Bournemouth selling him.
I do agree.
So,
with that,
so
Huijsen going as well.
Ndicka, he fits the kind of back three mould.
Yeah.
Because Roma playing that out on a back three normally. So yeah, I'm putting him forward. Tons of experience, reliable as shown by his level of games he played last year. Huge error win rate, tackles, whatever. All the tasty numbers.
He's 27 around that age. I feel like he's
around that.
26, 27 maybe.
I feel like he went to Roma decently young, didn't he?
He's 25.
He was linked to wasn't he linked to Barca as well?
Yeah, he was linked with a lot of teams. Spurs were linked with him quite a lot as well, like a couple of years ago. I like that shout. He's been really good for them. I think Zabani's one where I think they'd have to pay. I think Bournemouth would end up selling only if it was money that they just couldn't turn down. And are Newcastle going to do that when maybe they know that where they did a lot of groundwork for someone like Gahey last summer, where he's in the last year of his contract, they could probably push a little bit harder and maybe go for someone like him. I think with Gahey as well, the advantage of him is that Botman, when he's fit, is a starting centre-half, but Botman is also out of the team quite a lot. So you've got Gahey who can play on the right-hand side, but also can play on the left. So when Botman's not there, Gahey can shift over. When Botman is there, he can play alongside him. So I like the idea of Gahey. But Zabarnyi, I think Zabarnyi is really good. Like, really, really
22
good.
years old.
I think he takes that Newcastle defence to another level a little bit with how good he is on the ball. And I feel like despite how Botman's good on the ball as well, but I feel like he's still a bit more defence first, which is obviously good as a centre-back. Yeah. But I feel like Zabarnyi, in terms of maybe Newcastle being a bit more of a possession-dominant team at times, I feel like Zabarnyi for Tottenham would be like my number one Romero replacement, how really in that kind of aspect. So, I don't know. I would say Zabarnyi, but I just don't feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I guess you've got to have a little bit of realism there. Yeah. Like, I think that's understandable.
So, was there any other shouts?
I mean, another one I had was we've not sent Diamonde anywhere, and we've not sent Antonio Silva, is about that always mentioned from Benfica, isn't he? 45 mils roughly. He's in that kind of mould for them.
So that's the thing. I feel like Newcastle. I feel like you could maybe afford to spend a bit more money on someone. So I feel like Newcastle don't need loads.
Yeah, and now they're back in the Champions League. PSR's a little bit more helpful for them.
I've got one more name, which I thought would be really fun. Ademola Lookman.
Gasparini's left.
15 goals, 5 assists. Yeah, he deserves. Like, obviously they've got Champions League football again next year. He's just great. He can play at centre forward. He can play on the right. He can play on the left.
Yeah,
I know that left is mainly his main position, which is probably where they don't need anyone.
But also they keep Gordon on the bench quite a lot towards the back end of the season, didn't they? And he wasn't quite at the level that he was before.
Yeah,
so.
Barnes was scoring some nice goals. Lookman's got a bit of X factor. He's 27. I think you could probably get him now for about £50 million.
Yeah, I like that. I do quite like that.
So who do you want to go with? You've got goalkeeper, centre backs, right winger. Left winger. But I've given you 3 options there. Chevalier, Trafford, Bolka are your goalkeeper options.
Let's go for Trafford in goal.
Okay, 30 million on Trafford, I think, to get him from Burnley. Fair enough. Could be England's number one for the next few years.
Yeah, I feel like I really like the idea of Noni Madueke to Newcastle. I really like that. I said that a couple of months ago.
So do you want to spend 60 on Noni Madueke? That's what it costs, my friend.
But then again, it's like, would you rather spend 60 on him or then go for someone like Lookman who can play a bit more across the front three? Do you know what?
And are you hoping that Murphy going to have the same season?
No.
So you do need maybe a specialist right winger?
Do you know what? I'm actually going to go for Madueke because I feel like I put my neck on the line with this transfer a little bit.
Well, actually, no.
I said it. I said this months ago. I was like, he would be, if they can't get Mbeumo, such a brilliant fit. Like, I know there's been questions about his defensive ability at times, but I think the work rate is definitely there. He loves getting shots off. He's super direct, and I think Eddie Howe would take him to the next level. So I'm going to go for Madueke.
Okay.
And then centre half. How much have we got left to spend?
So you've got over 100 million to spend here. You could bring in 2 if you wanted to. I also think like they could do the midfield depth as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like midfielder also like a slightly different profile in midfield, a bit more of a creative profile. I think.
What goal are you going for?
Trafford.
Yeah. Which centre back? So you got Antonio Silva, Zabarnyi. Did you mention centre back? I can't remember. Undika.
I could go for both Ndika and if I've got 100 mil.
Yeah, why not?
Zabarnyi and Ndika because you've got right and left there. I think.
Perfect.
I'm going to go for that.
Bring them both in. Bring them both in.
I do feel like they probably could do like a creative midfielder. Though,
I think so as well. Yeah, go get Elliot Anderson back.
Yeah,
go pay the whatever they didn't they buy 50? No, 35 for him. Okay, final team, Man City. Let's say Tierney Reinders has done around £50 million for his services. What do you think of that deal, Henry?
That's an unbelievable deal.
It's all right. It's fine. I'm not as taken on him. He did win AC Milan Midfielder of the Year. Is that Serie A Midfielder of the Year?
Yeah.
Was it something like that?
Yeah, they won Serie A Midfielder of the Year.
won Most Valuable Player. But yeah, so I don't know.
Make it make sense.
I like Reinders. It's fine. Is he, Nico Gonzalez, has he been a game-changing midfielder for them as well? I think it's interesting. They've gone... they seem to always know what they're doing in the transfer market. Like, Mamouche has been an out-and-out success. So
Nico Gonzalez not really played.
I'll back them. I think Reinders is like a suitably tidy, slightly boring City player.
Well, I think
good replacement for Gundogan, I think.
Yeah, and I think if you look at what they're doing, it's almost as well kind of sharing. They're never going to replace Kevin De Bruyne. Ryan Cherky's another one, obviously. £35 million, it probably looks like that's going to be done for. I think that's a fantastic move for him. But it feels like almost they're sharing the De Bruyne burden.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to replace De Bruyne, really. Like, you're just hoping to get in another fantastic profile. And Reinders, I think, can help with that. I think Cherki creatively is going to be so much fun. It's going to be interesting how that midfield, or is Cherki going to play out on the left, on the wing? It's going to be really interesting to see how City kind of go about that.
Yeah. Don't say that, because people will tell you Pep Guardiola only ruins players.
I'll give you my players that I've got written down, which basically get us there. I could have put loads of players, to be honest. I'm saying this on the basis that Cherki doesn't sign. I think they'll go for a goalkeeper. I think they're going to sign up Diogo Costa. I think they're going to get the Porto keeper.
Good on the ball.
It may be a Mohamed Ashley situation where they get him.
Yeah.
They might even send him back, but I think this is the season to sign Diogo Costa for them. There's been lots of talk about that for a while. I don't need to say too much about him. He's a brilliant keeper. He is a brilliant keeper. Aït-Nouri, they are very strongly linked with at the moment as an alternative. I've said the German defender Mittelstadt, who's got 7 assists last season. He's one of the best crossers in the division. He's unbelievably quick down the left flank.
He's nailed down that starting spot for Germany as well, and he played last night.
Yeah, there we go. He starts for Germany at left back. He's a bit on the older side at 27, but I don't think it's a bad thing having experience in the ranks, especially when they're losing a few players that they are. And then I think just plonk some money on Gibbs White. I think he's brilliant.
Go bring home Gibbs White. I think they need a right back.
Yeah.
But the issue is, oh my God, the right back market is rough. It's not easy. Like, I wonder if Pep wants overlap. If he's going for Aït-Nouri, does he want an overlapping right back? And I was thinking, go and look at Malo Gusto at Chelsea.
Is Aït-Nouri, he's right back or left back?
Left back, Aït-Nouri, yeah. More of a left wing back, really.
Yeah.
And he's much more about this overlapping running. So
I also think he's so good, though. He's so technically good where he could play inverted as well. Like, he's on the ball.
I mean, that would be interesting at the right, but I don't know. I think, unless they're thinking, let's give Rico Lewis another year, but I don't know how that's going to work. I would say I was going to put for right back Malo Gusto. I don't know, as long as Maresca's there at Chelsea, I don't think he's going to quite work in this inverted fullback system. You at least have someone there that can be a very good overlapping fullback if that's the way Pep wants to try and get them playing for the next 2 years. I think Ryan Cherki, they have to go and do that if they are put all in for him now. It is so much cheaper than Florian Wirtz. And the upside of there's been all this talk about Cherki, about his attitude problems and whatnot.
Lazy.
We don't know that, for one. And normally when that's been spoken about, it's actually been more about his entourage. The guy has the ability to be outrageous. Either foot. We saw him against Manchester United in the Europa League. Absolutely incredible. So I'd be suggesting Ryan Cherki, especially for £35 million. That's absolute steal. Reinders, I agree, Aït-Nouri, and a goalkeeper, I'd say Costa as well.
Yeah.
So we're kind of a bit similar there, but would you rather a midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White or Malo Gusto?
I was really hot on Gibbs White to City a couple of months ago. I thought he'd be a really good replacement for De Bruyne. But I feel like they kind of, like you said, they're going around a different way about it. They're kind of bringing in all these different maybe elements of De Bruyne in different players. So I would probably leave Gibbs White alone, even though I think if they weren't signing Reinders or weren't signing Cherki, I would say go and do that 100%. But I feel like Cherki definitely get it done, Aït-Nouri definitely get it done, and I think I would probably prioritise a right back, maybe someone like Munoz at Palace as well. Like, I know he's a bit more of an out-and-out wing back, but
a bit older.
City surprised you with, I also think, a centre half maybe as well, like with Stones on the aging side. I'd say I don't mind Gusto as a shout. To be fair, I'd prioritise a right back over Gibbs White.
Yeah,
given the other players they're bringing in.
And also, if you're bringing Aït-Nouri, that means Gvardiol can finally start playing less centre back as well.
Yeah, and he's actually stepped up and been really good there in the last few months of the season.
Yes, so there we have it, guys. Whoa. Every team has been covered for £200 million. I'm sure over the next couple of months with the transfer window, we'll be going through all these teams all over again and suggesting different players to different places. But that's the fun of it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Henry Hill, if people at home want to check you out, where can they go?
God, so many names, so many stats. Go to FootballJOE, please. Just got 8 million on a short, so pretty good. That's
Cool drop numbers.
my KPI.
Then, if a lot of people want to check you out, where can they go?
TikTok, YouTube, just Ben Bowman, and then the FC BottleJob podcast as well. Go and check it out.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.